Hey, welcome back. It's another beautiful Friday here at Biktrix in lovely Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada. And we're back at you with another edition of Biktrix Live, fully live this week. I'm super stoked because my guest this week is our CEO, Roshan Thomas. Welcome back.
Hey, thanks for having me. Yeah.
All right, so we're just going to have a little chat, maybe recap some of the stuff we spoke about a few months ago at the beginning of this whole live journey. But to start with, how was your summer?
It was good, but actually before I answer that, let me just say it out there. I know some of you don't like us wearing masks in here, but
yes,
we checked just before we did this also that were we required to wear them, and unfortunately or fortunately we have to wear them. We're mandated
yes,
to wear them by the government, so we'll try and speak a little slower than normal, so hopefully our words are a little bit more pronounced and you can understand what we're saying. Yeah, that's why the mask. So
yes,
hey, excuse that. Other than that, summer's been good. We've been really swamped actually. It seems like I don't even know where summer went. Yeah, I think I was planning on having a week-long vacation in Kelowna, but that turned out to be me working for a week in Kelowna, yes, and then did the same thing in Vancouver and same thing. So I think the summer went really fast, and for us with bikes coming in, going out, I think it's it was busy is definitely the key word, I think.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I lived that summer too. It was very busy. And where did it go? I was super stoked to get out riding a bunch this year, especially with the team. We do some team bike rides and get to try different models and stuff, which was fantastic. So that was really awesome and a nice improvement over last summer. But yeah, it goes by way too fast. I hope the winter goes by just as fast.
Yeah, well, we're in October right now, and October 1st, and no snow flying. I think it's like 25 degrees Celsius outside. That's I take this. I think I think it's pretty good. So
it's fall in Saskatchewan. We could get snow at any moment. So I will take this as long as we get it. All right. So we were just talking about how busy we were, and one of the things we talked about a lot in our last little sit-down chat was a lot of trouble with shipping and delays and the cost increase. Has anything changed on that front?
The costs are slowly coming down for shipping, but that said, the demand is on the rise, so it's really hard to get shipping for containers, for bikes to come. For us, fortunately, we've had a constant, steady supply of bikes coming in and going out, through the summer, and that will be continuing for the foreseeable future, at least till next spring. We know that we have bikes scheduled to come in. We've already made the bookings in, and they're coming in, and so on. With the cost of things, it's still a little bit up in the air because right now raw material cost is something that nobody can control, and that's the part that's actually biting everybody. Like Bafang, earlier this year they announced a 15% hike in their prices, This included all pre-orders, orders, everything. So they were like essentially saying, hey, your prices are now 15% higher. I know you've paid for this before, but if you want this, then you got to pay another 15%.
Oh, dang.
Right? That's there. And then now I know they've announced another price hike just a couple of weeks ago that goes up another 10%. But they're also kind of, their hands are being tied by raw material supply. Steel, aluminum, magnesium, all of those things are much more expensive now. So prices, I think, unfortunately, are going to be in the rise. I don't see it dropping anytime soon. I do know that there are a bunch of, new e-bike companies that come along and be like, oh, we can do that cheaper. We'll buy this bike for $1,200 and sell it for $1,300 and we'll be fine. Well, it's fine if you intend to never support the customer ever, or like hire, people and pay them to support customers or whatever.
Yeah.
Or if you're backed up by this giant company with a lot of money where all they want to do is like, get market share, and even if that means selling at cost, it might be good for the customer, but in case they run into an issue a few months later, the company may not be around to support them. We're not doing the race to the bottom. We want to be a sustainable business. We offer great products, and we want to support our customers. And supporting customers means that we have to invest in our employees. We have 53 employees, actually maybe 55 as of yesterday, and we want to support customers. And obviously, these 55 employees that we have are not volunteers.
No.
These we have a livelihood to take care of, and I firmly believe that our minimum wage sucks here in Saskatchewan. I think it's like 11 something. I don't think you can do anything with $11 something. So
no, and it's the lowest in Canada.
Yeah, like that's a whole other topic. But either way, I am not a believer in the minimum wage kind of a deal. So we pay our employees much higher than in minimum wage, and I think every company should. And with that comes, we have to pass that cost on, and that's why I think when you look at all what you're getting, the bikes are a good bang for the buck, and so that's essentially where we're headed.
Yeah, and that was something I heard a lot last weekend when I was doing an outdoor trade show for electric vehicles, and people are coming checking out the bikes, taking them for test rides, and they'd say, well, I could get this at Costco for half the price. Yeah, you could, but if something breaks, is Costco going to replace your derailleur? Is Costco going to walk you through how to adjust your whatever, No, they're not.
I was actually speaking to one of our, when we have other companies that sell e-bikes, they are competition, but we're not like cutthroat competition. We're like, whatever, we talk, So there was another e-bike company that supplies to Costco that I was speaking with, and the guy was saying how at Costco they have a bike's return rate of like 20%. Oof. So like every 20 bikes out of 100 that they ship out comes back to them, and of course they can't sell them as new. So a bunch of those companies that are in Costco actually vanish after a year or two because Costco doesn't take that risk. They pass it on to the supplier. So they tell them, hey, we'll pay you after 90 days after you've given us the goods, but then the goods are sold, but then they come back and then they only pay them the net or whatever, and so they end up like losing a bunch of money and not able to sustain the business, so they just go out of business like a couple of years later. But you know what, if you're just starting out and you just want a basic bike and you're able to get that in Costco, by all means you should, but it comes with the caveat that don't expect like stellar support, because that's not what they're going after.
We'll see you in a year or two when you're ready for an upgrade.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right. So speaking of just models and what's coming in, we get asked a lot, particularly lately, for frames that will suit, let's call us vertically challenged folks. And we do normally carry the Stunner LT20, which is one of the smaller models we usually have on hand. And even just like in this week, I think I've had 4 or 5 people ask for it. Do we know, are we getting more? Are we planning on doing anything else in the small model family?
Yeah, so we are absolutely getting more. We've ordered our Stunner LT small frames like a while ago, so long ago I don't even remember now. But I just don't know when they're going to be here. So we know that we're constantly checking up with our factories to check the production schedule and things like that. They're on the schedule to be here sometime towards the holidays, maybe a little bit sooner if you're lucky. And I know that my wife is only 5 foot tall on a good day.
Yeah, I like standing next to her. I feel like what my friends must feel like when they stand next to me.
yeah. So and unfortunately for us, we don't have any bikes that fit her except the Stunner LT20. And that's one of the things that paid a lot of attention to this year, is to make some bikes that are accessible for people that are not as tall, especially men and women that are around the 5 foot, 5'2", 5'3" kind of height. So we have the Stunner LT20 coming in, but we also have a newer version of one of those bikes coming in without the top bar. So it should offer a much lower step through and much better fit. But like I said, I can't say ETAs yet because I don't know when they are, but I know that we have them in the pipeline.
And so then that's going to be true for the next run of Ultra Beasts, the Fat Tire FS Pros, the 18-inch Boost FS Pros. Basically, if it's not on the website, but we generally carry it, it's coming.
Yeah, the FS Pros, the FS Pros have been like really surprising for us because we generally look at the velocity of sales. So we look at how many bikes we get and how fast they move out the door, and then we plan like, okay, let's get enough bikes to sell them out in 6 months. But this year has been kind of like a whack-a-mole because it's like, hey, we got all these bikes, bam, oh, they're all gone, so that's been kind of like really hard. It's a good problem, but it's a problem that we need to solve. So with the FSs, I know we have the next batch getting ready. We have one new color coming in there. It's going to be pretty sweet, I think. Nice. So and Beasts are coming in. We have Beasts on the way, FS Pros on the way, a couple of new models coming out. So lots of cool, new, exciting products coming out.
Sweet. And like you said before, they're on the way. We just don't have our solid ETAs just yet. And that comes back to some of that stuff we see in shipping and raw material delays. So speaking of the Beast, we recently had to issue a recall specifically on the batteries of just the Ultra Beast. They do use different batteries than our other models, different cells and chips and things. So it only is applicable to the Beast. Do you want to talk a little bit about that whole situation?
Yeah, for sure. The thing is that a lot of people don't realize is, regardless of whether the battery is made by Samsung or Panasonic or LG or whoever name brands, or a no-name brand in China, they all have a risk of batteries going into thermal runaway. Thermal runaway is when a battery gets super hot. It's so hot that it basically explodes, and then because that explosion, it's actually crazy because when the battery gets into thermal runaway, it generates its own oxygen. So it generates oxygen and then helps the burning itself. So, so it's pretty much like a little bomb, right? A little bomb in a little case. And that's the case with all lithium-ion batteries. And the thing is, and this is the whole reason why Samsung phones, they had a whole run of
the S7s a few years
ago. Like whole run of notes that they had to recall because this is what was happening, is that these things were, when something goes wrong, they go wrong really bad. So for us, we did have this instance where one of the persons had a Beast battery just sitting on a table somewhere, and it basically just spontaneously caught fire. And generally, out of the tens of thousands of bikes we've sold, we've come across this case. And generally, like, other companies try to just brush it off under the rug. They're like, yeah, it's only one. That's like, 0.0001%. Let's just stick it under the rug and don't worry about it. But I don't want to do that because I want to sleep well at night. And I think all of our customers should also. So we, voluntarily decided that we're going to recall all of the bikes, all of the batteries for that particular batch of bikes. And what makes them different is that the Beast is the only line of bikes that we have that uses the latest 21700 cells. So generally, these lithium-ion cells come in like different form factors. Some come in pouches, some come in. The most common ones is called the 18650. So that's like 18 millimeters diameter and 650 millimeters tall. So, but generally, but this newer version, the newer cells that are making, especially for EV, they're like a different form factor, 21700. These are the same cells that are being used in like Chevy Bolt cars and like lots of other cars. And our Beast batteries are the only ones that use that one. So it turns out that these cells were made by LG, and we narrowed down the issue to a capacitor that was included on the BMS, where when this capacitor gets shorted due to some kind of if there's movement inside the pack or something of that sort, then it gets too hot, and that heat heats up the battery, and then everything else goes to hell. So we recalled all of those batteries. We hired a US-based company to basically replace all of the BMS boards. Regardless of whether we saw a risk or not, we're like, well, we'll just replace them all. And so within the US, the third-party company FTH is a certified repair technician for these batteries. They work with Bosch and several larger names. They've been replacing all of these BMSs and shipping them out to customers. And then in Canada, we've been doing the replacement ourselves. And if customers are in locations where we cannot ship batteries back, so like Hawaii or Alaska, we've just been asking them to get the batteries recycled, send us the proof of recycling, and then we send them a new battery. So we just wanted to do, so that's the one thing we've done. One front is to mitigate the risk of this happening again and do what we have to do in terms of due diligence, almost like an automotive recall.
Yeah.
So we did that. The second thing we've done is I brought up in the R&D team that this is a problem that nobody's actually addressed properly in the e-bike world or any lithium-ion battery world. I know that robotics guys use LiPo batteries, which are like these packs that often blow up, but they have several things in place, like, oh, we only store these these packs in this particular location, or we monitor the temperature, we do all these different things. None of that is defined for e-bikes, So we're actually, our R&D team, they have a working prototype. I think we spoke about it in the last call there.
We did a video about it earlier this month, and
yeah,
it's pretty cool.
It's pretty awesome. Like, and turns out that these batteries, when they blow up, they're so dangerous in terms of the fumes that they give out.
Yeah.
That we're not even allowed to test them with blowing out batteries. Yeah. So my team came up with like, oh, maybe we can just use rocket engines instead.
Yeah.
So we have like these tiny rocket engines that we're using to test these packs.
It also turned out the batteries themselves are pretty hard to explode on purpose. Like, they're not something that's just normally under normal conditions just gonna.
It was really hard, yeah. So these guys had to like put a battery on like a stovetop to see if it catches fire or whatever. And so the one folder is, yes, we've recalled and we've addressed this particular situation. But in the second folder is, I want to make sure that batteries are safe or kept safe within a household. So we've our R&D team is hard at work, and I think in the next few weeks we have a product coming out. Sweet. Where you can stick your battery in there while you're charging. When you're not charging, it'll just store in there. So in case there's a thermal runaway and the battery explodes in there, there's a bag that opens up pretty much like a
hot air balloon.
Like a hot air balloon,
It's not gonna float away.
Exactly.
But it has a similar effect to
exactly. It'll just explode. Well, this case will reduce the temperature. So, it'll reduce the temperature from like 600, 700 Celsius down to like 100 or 50 to 100 range. Put all the fumes into this bag and then enclose all of this stuff so sharpnel doesn't go flying out and catch other stuff on fire, right? So that's coming out. So we want to make sure that, we're a company that's like, we're really responsible, right? So when we're selling e-bike motors and batteries, we want to make sure that our customers are safe. And as part of that, we'll be making this new product where you can safely store lithium-ion batteries. So that we got a couple of patent pending applications on that, because really this problem hasn't been addressed. So it's an opportunity.
When this whole thing first started and folks were asking us a lot, well, what should I do with my batteries? How should I be storing? What should we use? And I was just looking through Amazon because I own 2 of our bikes. I have 4 batteries. I was like, well, they're not base batteries, but maybe I should be considering safety and not just leaving them in my hallway or something. I don't know, just thoughts. And so, I was looking for different options, and a lot of the things out there are for small batteries. They're for like your cell phone, they're for like a laptop. There's not a lot out there for the size of batteries that we use. At least specifically, there's nothing. You could put some, get a few different things and kind of make something up, but it's not to the level that this new product is that we covered in that previous video. I definitely recommend checking it out, especially if you like to watch things explode. We had some pretty good footage of the science that went into making this new battery housing. It's really cool. I'm super stoked on it. Excellent. So thanks for touching base on that Beast battery recall. It is.
Hey, so if you're a Beast owner and hasn't replied, I think we had like 40 people that haven't replied or something. Yeah. We've sent those guys snail mail to make sure they get it. And because we really want you, I know that some of the Beast owners are like, well, it's such a low chance, why don't I just write it and then like whatever, Well, the question is, what if yours is that one battery that decides to blow up next or something, right? Like, what is that risk worth? I would personally not take that risk, and I don't recommend anybody taking that risk. And given that the company is paying for all of this stuff to just get it replaced or whatever, I think people should just do it. So if you're a Beast owner watching this show and haven't sent your battery in yet, please do it. You know, send it in.
I will put the caveat that if you got your Beast like super recently, it was probably fine.
Yeah.
And if you didn't already get the emails, but if you're worried at all, you know, just reach out to support.
Yeah,
that's triple check for you.
And that's a good point, Shannon. Like all the newer Beasts that we've shipped out, we already fixed all of that and we've shipped it out with that. So if you're a Beast customer and haven't gotten an email from us saying send your batteries in, you probably don't need to worry. But if you want to double check, just reach out to our support team. We can check out your build sheet, look up what batteries we shipped to you, and tell you if you need to ship it to us or not.
Yeah, because as soon as that incident happened and we knew we were going to end up doing a recall, because I think that was like a Sunday or Monday night that it happened, like the next morning we're like, stop shipment, put a hold while we figure this all out so that we could take care of any that hadn't left yet, so we weren't having to chase them back down after. So, but like you said, and I said, if you're unsure, please, of course, reach out. We'll triple check for you, just in the name of safety for sure.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. So that is the Beast. I'm going to just check on chat here. Thank you for your support, Kevin, he's saying nice things about how good our support is. So thank you, Kevin.
Good. Thanks, Kevin.
Batteries got back to you. Awesome, Jason. I'm glad your Beast batteries. There was a 4-week turnaround for Jason. Yeah, that's not too bad at all, actually, given the load of shipping and work that has to go into those. Excellent. So if anybody has any topic-specific questions, please go ahead and drop those in the chat. We'll be going for just a few more minutes here. Spindrift Studio asked, at some point I would like to hear the pros and cons of 2 different tire sizes, but if it doesn't fit into this discussion, I understand. We can just quickly jump on that right before we get into our last little bit.
Well, quick little thing about tire sizes. Yeah, earlier, I used to ride a bike that was like a road bike tire, right? Really thin, less than an inch, super nice. When you're pedaling the bike, it's super efficient. When you ride a mountain bike and then you ride a road bike, you're like, man, this road bike's so much better on the road, because it's like so much lesser effort to ride. But what I found is that one of the first bike I made electric was a road bike that I put a motor on and a battery on. And I found out that I was getting pinch flats every couple of days. And that was because I was going really fast, and then anytime I hit a twig, I would get a flat. Or I hit a pothole, I get a flat. And so then I realized, well, maybe, I should try a mountain bike tire instead. And on the mountain bike tire, it was way less reduced. And the same thing happened when we tried a much larger tire, like a fat tire bike. Yes, it adds drag on. It makes the ride, a little bit slower than you would on a road bike. But the motor helps you with that.
Yep.
And then it makes it a lot more comfortable because now you can go into ride on gravel, go into, like in Saskatoon here, we don't have the best roads. So anytime if you're not looking at the road, bam, pothole, right? And with these fat tire bikes, I find them really forgiving. You go roll through a pothole and it doesn't feel like you're going to fly off the bike.
Yeah.
So the advantages are much cushier ride, rolls really nice, very forgiving. Those are the ones with the fat tire. And then on the contrary, the disadvantages are, yes, it uses up more juice, more battery and more effort to go the same distance. But if you have a big enough battery, that becomes kind of irrelevant.
Exactly.
And then with the thinner tires, yes, the 27.5 by 3 I think is a perfect size.
I love mine.
It's not too wide or not too thin, and that offers the perfect balance, I think, for commuting. And also, like it's much more nimble than a fat tire bike.
Like I said before, I have 2 bikes. One of the bikes I have was a model we had last fall, the Juggernaut HD Duo, the first Duo we did, and that has 4.8-inch fat tires on it.
Yeah.
I once ran out of battery on the way home. That was a heavy pedal, but it's also my husband's bike. My husband's not a small gentleman by any means. He is like 370 pounds, and he rides that bike all the time, takes our dogs for runs, and sometimes he's just like, I'm gonna cut across this field, and he can, and he does, and it's fine because he's got those big fat tires. I have 27.5 by 3s on mine. I ride that on road, off road, some road, no road, and I do find it to be really nimble and just a great all around tire.
Well, and the thing is, when I ride bikes here, I thought like, oh, all cities must be like Saskatoon, but it's not. Like if you go to places like Seattle or even Vancouver, their roads are like silk. It's pretty freaking nice. So if you're commuting every day, then you really don't need the fat tire.
Yeah.
And that's why like a lot of people walk into our showroom in Vancouver and they're like, I don't want to look at any of these fat tire bikes. Let me just look at this thin one. And then you know, the sales guy, Al, great guy, by the way, if you're in Vancouver, go visit him. He would say, hey, that's fine. Why don't you just go for a ride? And then give them a fat tire bike. And sure enough, a lot of them switch over. They're like, oh, actually, this is not bad. You know,
don't
it's
knock
like,
it till you try it.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you'd never know whether you'd like it or not till you try one. So you should try it out.
Yeah, they're so much fun. Kevin, how worried should I be that my Juggernaut Ultra order is being processed right when you're moving? Not worried.
Yeah, don't worry too much. Like, we are moving, but we're just moving 2 blocks away.
Yeah, it's real close.
Yeah, it's really close. The reason we're moving is because this warehouse here that we've been operating out of is about 6,000 square foot. The place that we've got now is 12,000 square foot. So I wanted all of our staff to be working here that don't have to work with inventory every day, and the operations guys, which is the mechanics and the shipping receiving guys, all moved to one building. Now, the caveat with that is that last time we tried to do this, we tried to keep all the shipping in place while doing all of the moving, and that was a bit of a beep show. so that's why I think that in itself introduced PTSD for a bunch of my staff. So we're like, don't want to do that again. They actually came and asked me, can we have like 2 days of no shipping just so we can get everything moved? Yes. And I said yes. So your order might be delayed a couple of days, 3 days. It shouldn't be a whole lot. But the good news is that when it does get out the door, we'll make sure that it's perfect when it gets to you.
Yeah, we've got it on lock. We planned it out this time. Our team is ready to roll on that. The Ultra Duo motors, JS, those are currently a UART motor, not a canvas. Is our R&D team looking at a belt or CVT drive? That's
a great question. Actually, in fact, when we were moving today, one of the guys asked me about this belt drive CVT with a BBS02 motor that we have, that I've had for years now, that we built a prototype of. There's a few different things that we don't like about it. One of the things is we find that if you use the center drive chain, they have like 2 different types of belts. So if you use the one that's a center drive, your belt tension needs to be perfect all the time, and it's really hard to get it perfect, especially when you combine that with a motor that's like really powerful. So we find that on my bike, at least on the prototype, we had to constantly keep adjusting the belt tension, and if it's not perfect, then your sprocket starts chewing through the belt, and that's not good. It's not fun. It doesn't ride very well either. Then in terms of the CVT, a lot of our competitors offer like a 500 watt motor with a CVT, or they offer a 750 watt motor that's toned down to 500 watts for a CVT. We just didn't think that it was worth the compromise. We didn't want to compromise power for a CVT, but also the CVT or the internally geared hubs weigh about 3 to 4x the weight of a regular chain cassette derailleur system.
Ooh,
it also costs a lot more. And in fact, when it breaks, it's broken. You can't do anything. You just like replace it. So we just think that a derailleur system, though it has a lot of disadvantages, the advantages outweigh the disadvantages because it's so simple to operate, easy to tweak, easy to adjust. The bottleneck for those things have always been the free hub body, where when you combine one of these wheels with a powerful motor like an Ultra, and when the rider, say he doesn't know how to use the gears properly or is not aware of it, so maybe he's standing at a stop sign, he's on the highest gear, and then gives it full power. It's like me sitting in a Porsche, sticking it onto like 5th gear and just gunning it from a stop sign. The engine's powerful enough that your car will start moving, but it's not good for the transmission or anything of that sort. Yeah. So sometimes when that happens, there are like these teeth that are inside the free hub body that basically is what turns the hub, and those teeth get bound or they break or something happens. So that has always been the Achilles heel with a derailleur system, is the free hub body that they use in the hub is what causes the issues. Now we have actually worked really hard over the past couple of years to develop our own hubs that get rid of that issue. More on that coming up soon. I know in the next few weeks, we are launching 2 new hubs that we found are pretty much unbreakable with the powerful motor. So I think we put like 2,000 watt, 3,000 watt motors on them and still haven't broken those hubs. So stay tuned, and you'll hear more about that from us.
Awesome. We've always got something several somethings in the works, which is great. Other than Ninja Surgeon, are we going to have any other bikes with a rear hub transmission other than the Stunner? Now, Ninja, do you mean like the internally geared hub?
Yes, I think that's what he means.
I don't think so, probably.
Yeah, we're not, we don't know yet. So right now there's nothing in the pipeline that we have with an internally geared hub. We actually haven't found a hub that's strong enough to deal with the power that's at a good price point. Like there are hubs out there like Kindernay and roll-off hubs, but those hubs, they cost like €1,000. Just the cost of the hub is €1,000. That means that the price of your bike is going up like a lot.
Yeah.
And also using them, like we actually built a couple of roll-off bikes for customers that were custom built. And I know that I wasn't a big fan of like the twist shifter on the roll-off. It's like you have to twist 14 gears. That was like a pain in the ass. Like, you know, like it works really well, but I don't think it's what most people require. So that's one of the reasons we are not pursuing the internally geared hub route. We just have one model, and that's probably all we'll have.
Yeah, and I noticed too, like just from a maintenance standpoint, I can figure out how to fix my derailleur system. I could not do an internally geared hub on my own. It would take a lot more doing. And I know we've had customers take them to local shops, and their local shops have had trouble because it's not something that's super common, and sometimes they need their own specific tools. So there's pros and cons and things to consider.
Yeah, with these internally geared hubs, like Sturmey Archer, that's a company that's been around for over 100 years. You know, they've been making these internally geared hubs forever. Mm-hmm. And the only adjustment you can make as a user is the cable tension. So you can just make sure that the shifter cable is lined up, so everything, you know, shifts nice. But other than that, anything else you do, you got to pull the hub out, open the hubs, open it up and look what's inside and so on. And most of the time, it's really hard to fix. So generally, it's much harder to maintain them if you have to maintain them. Mm-hmm. But generally, they last a long time without having to do anything on them.
Yeah. So when they work, they're great. But if anything goes sideways, it's tough. Have we considered a pinion drive? That is not something I've heard of.
Yeah, so Pinion Drive is actually a German company that makes a like an internally geared hub, but it's just in the bottom bracket. It's a pretty sweet system. It works really well.
Okay, I've seen those. I didn't know that was what they were called.
Yeah, that's what they call. They're like a Pinion Drive system. They're awesome. Like, trust me, I'm always on top of this thing to see what is the latest and greatest that we can put on our bikes. With the Pinion Drive, we've considered it, but it can only be used with the rear hub drive, and we find that generally users who buy rear hub drive motors are not looking for spending a lot of money on that bike. So that's why most of the rear hub drive e-bikes are much much more economical to buy than a mid-drive bike. Mm-hmm. With the pinion drive itself costs same like a roll-off. It's more like €1,000, somewhere on that price point. And then combine that with a hub drive, now you have a hub-motored bike that's internally geared with the pinion drive. That's probably about $5,000. And while I think there is a market for it, I think the market might be too small for it.
Yeah.
So that's something that we're not going towards right now. But never say never. I'm always open-minded.
There's always new developments and new things coming out. Wes Neal, hey Wes, I've seen your videos on our Facebook. He wanted to make sure I let you know that he appreciates you and your business. So thank you so much, Wes. Thanks for joining us today. Julian, with your Sturmey Archer, please reach out to support. They'll be able to answer that question for you in terms of repair and replacement for a Sturmey Archer hub. JS, when you're using 2 batteries on the configuration of the Duo, the bike draws from both batteries at the same time.
Yeah.
Awesome. Some excellent questions in the feed. Thanks again, everybody, so much for joining us today. Really appreciate it. It's one of the highlights of my Fridays every week is doing these lives. So now that we've gone over a bit of what's in the work, what is next for Biktrix? What's coming up in the next 3, 6, 9 months, 12 months?
Well, next 9 to 12 months, we're going to be getting bikes that we ordered 6 months ago is what's going to come up. Yeah, that's a win, I guess. But actually, that aside, we do have a few new exciting models coming out. I can't spill the beans on a lot of them because we haven't, because of all this stuff that's going on in the supply chain, we haven't finalized some of the components and models and all the things that are going on these models. But I know that a new version of the Cuddy is coming out, and we're looking at making it a little bit
I've
better.
seen that one, and I've seen some footage, and I got to see them in person yesterday. And oh, y'all aren't ready. I thought Roshan was joking when he first told me about this one, and I was like, no, that's a made-up thing. And then it turns out it's real, and it's like so cool. And the Cuddy is one of our most popular models. We get asked for it so much, and it sells out so quickly. These ones are just going to be so great.
Yeah, they're going to be, I think they're going to be really good. Like one of the things I did not like about folding step-through models is that they're not very steady, the frames, but the new ones that we've got, they're awesome. They're like super strong, and just a little bit of, throwing a thing out there, it's got a suspension in the back and the front. So full suspension, folding bike, bam.
Yeah, that's what he told me, and I was like, no, you're joking. Just keep an eye on the website. We will launch one. We'll probably do a live around that time too to show it off, because I want to ride one of these. I saw it over at the other building, the prototypes, and they just look so cool. So
yeah,
so
we have those, and then we have our moped style bikes have been really popular. So
Motos,
we have another new moped style bike that's a little more affordable coming out.
Sweet.
For some people that want that. We have a couple of first time ever. We're actually going to be making a whole lineup of carbon fiber bikes. So those are in the works. We're just waiting on an ETA and the final component selections to figure what that is. But that's in the works. So awesome looking bikes.
There's
and
so much cool stuff in the pipeline. I'm so stoked for all of this. It's going to be awesome.
That makes two of us, at least.
Nice. At least two of us.
Yeah.
Let me know. Are you guys stoked to see some new stuff from us? Pop it in the chat. I know you are. You're here watching this. I think you're also stoked. All right. So I think that's going to wrap it up for today. Again, thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. Love to have you here. Love your support. Roshan, thanks so much for joining us and giving us some updates, letting us know what's going on. We'll talk to you again in another, 3 to 6 months, I guess.
Hey Shannon, thanks for taking up this thing and running with it. It's great, and I think the public, people watching, really appreciate your enthusiasm and stuff doing it. And hey, just FYI, guys, I did not put her up to this task. She just did it by herself, and I think you're doing a killer job. So thanks for doing that.
Now that's recorded on the internet forever. I appreciate that. Thank you so much. And yeah, I love doing this. This is a lot of fun. Like I said, this is a highlight for me for this week. If there's anything you guys want to see in future Biktrix lives, please reach out. Let me know. I'm always open to ideas. I want to make sure that this content is content you guys want to see, is content that's useful to our customers, to potential customers. Even if it's just like, hey, we want to see the shop floor, what's guys doing up, whatever, anything, reach out.
And thanks guys for all of you making posts on our Facebook owners group. I know it's been I see a lot of you riding in like all sorts of places, and it always motivates other people to go out and ride.
I saw Dave posted photos from his trip around New York. Oh my goodness. I have a wish list now of places I want to ride my bike. So I'd like to come to New York. There's a bunch of rides in BC. There's some in California. Like, there's so many places. Thanks, guys.
So the owners group, that's what we really like about it. It's this community of people that own a product, support a vision, but are placed everywhere. And you guys are posting all these rides, and that's awesome. Thanks for your support, and let us know if we can help in any way.
All right. Thank you, Kevin, for your comment there. I just saw it. It's very nice of you. I'm glad you're enjoying them. All right, so we're going to wrap it up here on this excellent positive note. I'm going to float through my weekend now. All right, so thanks so much for joining us. Check in again next week. Catch you on the other side.
Thanks, guys. Have a good one.